Good morning, good afternoon, especially to our dear listeners. We are here to read, we talk, we analyze, we discuss. So for today, I'm with my pod partner, Carl Marky Harjolin, and I'm Rivian Ojeda, and we are the Pod Talk.
Pod Talk.
So that's it, partner. So, hello everyone, especially to my partner.
Hi, my dear partner. So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling really good right now. How about you?
I'm also feeling good, and especially, November is near. I can't wait to visit my great-grandfather.
Speaking of November, yesterday I read a short story that really blew my mind, and I did research because it got me so interested. It's written by the man from Russia, Leo Tolstoy, and this story is all about a poor man who became obsessed with the idea of if only owned more land, his life would be perfect, and this short story is also about the consequences of our decision.
So, how can November relate to this story? And it's from Russia? How old is this story, or this man?
You won't believe in me if I say this. This short story was released in 1886, and it's 136 years old.
Wow, that's so old!
And I will not tell you yet how this story relates because I'm not gonna spoil the ending.
You've got me so interested in it, and I can wait till I know the ending of this story.
So the title of the short story is How Much Land Does a Man Need?, written by a great man from Russia, Leo Tolstoy. And his books are inspired by true events like the book he wrote, The War and Peace, and it's about the French invading his country, Russia, during the Napoleonic era.
So, this means that the story that we are gonna discuss today happened in real life?
Yes, and I believe everyone has the feeling that something isn't enough for them, that they want or need more, that they aren't satisfied with what they have and want more of it.
Yes, I agree with what you've said, and yes, I sometimes feel like this, especially when I'm eating. By the way, Marky, since you are familiar with this story and have done research on it, why is the title like that? Is there any explanation behind this?
It actually captures the story's main idea, calls attention to important issues, and acts as an appropriate introduction to the effects of greed and arrogance on human nature.
Okay, wow! I understand it now, even though you haven't started the story, and now, please can you start the plot?
So, from what I read in the story, the main character of this short story is a peasant that wants to rise up his class by purchasing a lot of land as he can. But before that, the devil, a cunning trickster, decides to tempt him. As the Barkish elder, the traveling peasant and passing merchant learns about the deal with the Bashkirs and offering him for a little fee as much land as he can walk around in a single day. Started his greedy journey, marking the land he desired as he get consumed by his ambitions day by day, envisioning his death and panicking, knowing what they did, then died due exhaustion as the sun is setting.
Tragic yet interesting story indeed. A peasant, huh? Do the other characters around Pahom are like him?
Well, the older sister is always judgmental about her little sister. Oh, I think I can count the Bashkirs too, because they only want to teach Pahom a lesson for being greedy, but they are shrewd negotiators.
What about the others?
They are different and kinder than Pahom. His wife is concerned about him for striving to land and the consequences that he'll face. Pahom's brother-in-law that always lends some money to help them, the Bashkir elder, traveling peasant, and passing merchant that is devil in disguise are the one who provokes Pahom and his loyal servants that always help him measure the land he bought with obedience and dedication. Rivian, I'm very excited to chat to you about Leo Tolstoy's How Much Land Does a Man Need? This story has extremely stunning sensory images.
I'm eager to learn more. Which specific sensory details did you find in this narrative?
Tolstoy expertly incorporates sensory details into the novel to fully engross the reader in the characters' lives as well as the rural settings. The stunning description of huge vistas, rolling hills, and rural villages, along with the heavy emphasis on visual images, will capture your attention. It's as if you can see the broad countryside and the modest cottages of the characters before your very eyes.
That sounds like a detailed description. Did other senses play a role?
Without a doubt. Additionally, captivating is the auditory imagery. It adds tension and depth to the story when you can almost hear the protagonist's heartbeat during the most intense scenes. Additional atmospheric enhancement including bird cries and leaf rustling noises.
It must produce a rich reading experience. What about physical sensation, like touch?
You betcha! The story does a great job of describing the tactile sensations. The protagonist physical effort and exhaustion are palpable as she obstinately seek out more land. It's so vividly described that you almost feel as though you are there.
Did you take note of any flavors or smell in the story?
There are olfactory and gustatory cues that are connected to outdoor setting. Though they are not as overt, the story becomes even more immersive because you can almost smell the earth in the surrounding environment.
The use of sensory detail makes it sound like a literary masterpiece.
It's true, it is. The use of sensory imagery by Tolstoy in How Much Land Does a Man Need improves the reader's sense of immersion in the story and vividly describes the character environments.
I'm curious. This story probably has a lot more to say. Can you elaborate on the themes and messages of the story?
Definitely, Rivian. Not only is How Much Land Does a Man Need is a feast for their senses, but it's also full of symbolism. For instance, the land is a potent representation of human greed and the never-ending desire for more. It stands for the protagonist's tragic consequences of his relentless pursuit and his ever-expanding ambitions.
That's amazing! What about the story's devil?
The devil is yet another alluring symbol. As I'll explain, he is a representation of human weakness, temptation, and evil. He acts as a warning about the perils of unchecked desires but is seducing the protagonist into a risky pact that ultimately results in his demise.
And the Bashkir and the man with no shoes?
The barefoot man and the Bashkirs serve as opposing symbols. The protagonist's greed is revealed when the Bashkirs offer him more land than he can cover in a day, which results in his exhaustion and eventual demise. The barefoot man, on the other hand, represents simplicity, humility, and contentment. The protagonist's aspirations are in sharp contrast to his way of life.
It's amazing how the story incorporates these symbols into its plot. I'd like to delve deeper into this tale.
Rivian, I couldn't agree with you more. This classic story has so much to reveal.
Its abundance in symbolism was mentioned by you. Even though I have prior knowledge of the story, I'm still curious about your interpretation of its main ideas.
Rivian, I appreciate your interest. The main themes of the story are human greed, ambition, and the results of unchecked desires. It serves as a warning showing how uncheckable desires for more can result in one's physical and moral demise.
Those themes are undoubtedly thought-provoking. How do the characters and the story's plot help to convey these ideas?
The protagonist's relentless pursuit of land, which is motivated by his growing greed, is the main source of conflict in the story. Other symbolic representation of various aspects of his journey are offered by the Bashkirs, along with the devil, the barefooted man, and the other characters. They all help to illustrate his actions, result as well as the diametrically opposed principle of contentment and simplicity.
This analysis is fascinating and helps me better understand the story. I'd like to hear more about it during our podcast.
Nga pala, by the way, in this narrative, we meet Pahom, a man that is never happy with that he has. His obsessive search of more land has disastrous effects in his life.
Oh, now I get the lesson of this story. It's simple but profound. Greed can be destructive. It's just demonstrate that pure happiness does not come from amassing wealth and good.
And it teaches us to be content what we have, to consider our action and their consequences.
Lastly, to appreciate the brevity of life, because in the end, the chase of limitless desires can lead to your own demise.
Yeah. To end this episode, let's talk about the part what we love about the story. For me, I love how the story shows the destructive power of human desires and greed. I also appreciate how I can use this story to help others understand the consequences of their own greed. How about you, Rivian? What do you love about the story I shared with you?
Just like what you said, I love how they show the consequence of being greedy. This will help those who have been greedy their entire lives in realizing that a consequence that will probably change their lives.
You're right, Rivian. I also really love how they show the culture of the Russian peasant in the 19th century. It explores the agricultural economy and way of life, which at the time were essential to Russian culture.
Yup, they also illustrate Russian society at this time, with wealthy landowners using influence of their peasants, who are frequently portrayed as servants. It explores the agricultural economy and way of life, which at the time were essential to Russian culture.
That's right, Rivian. So I'm done with my story and I think it's enough for today. I hope you and our listeners enjoy my short story titled How Much Land Does a Man Need by Leo Tolstoy.
I really enjoyed our episode today. I appreciate you sharing this wonderful story with me and with our listeners as well. Anyway guys, we're done with our episode.
Thank you guys for listening to us, and again, we're here to read, we talk,
we analyze, and we discuss. Again, that's it for today. And we are the Pod Talk. Good morning, my dear listeners. I am Rivian Ojeda. We are back for more stories and poems. And again, we are here to read, we talk, we analyze, and we discuss. Unfortunately, my partner Marky isn't here today because he is sick. So, I introduce to you, my dear listeners, my pod partner for today, John Gerard Anyoso.
Hi, my dear listeners. Today, I will be Rivian Ojeda's partner.
And again, we are Pod Talk. Today is a great day, isn't it, partner?
Yes, partner, and I am excited to know more stories and poems.
Yeah, also me, partner, but since Karl Marx isn't here today, it's my turn to share the poem that interested me recently, so we'll read and discuss it.
Oh, what is it, partner?
The title of the poem is Crossing the Bar, and it's made by Alfred Tennyson. I really like the poem because while I read it, it really interests me.
That's quite interesting. Can you tell me about this poem?
Okay, so this poem is about death. It talks about the author itself before he died. And this poem is the last and final poem that Tennyson wrote. The poem addresses us that they don't want people to moan or be sorrowful about their situation. In short, every one of us should accept death calmly and be ready to face it. So that's what I understand about the poem, partner.
Wow, that is indeed a really interesting poem. Then, let's discuss it, partner.
Alright, so this poem goes into the emotional journey of a father and son as they sail together for the last time and deal with mortality, regrets, and reconciliation. James, an old sailor, convinces Michael, his son, to accompany him on one final journey. They deal with their complicated relationship throughout the way and ultimately achieve a conclusion. Beneath the open sea, the story provides a moving examination of relationships, affection, and acceptance.
That's a really sad poem. By the way, partner, I noticed in this poem and it's full of words that have a meaning behind it.
I know, right? The idea of crossing the bar as a metaphor for death is powerful. He beautifully describes the transition from life to death as crossing a sandbar.
Tennyson is such a great author. I love how he came up with these ideas. As far as I understand, while reading this poem, the bar symbolizes the point where life and death come together. Also, the tide and the sun, where the tide symbolizes time passing and the setting sun denotes death.
And look at the first stanza, sunset and evening star, similar to the end of the day. These sentences express a sense of closure and peace. It's as if death is a peaceful and natural event.
And also in the first stanza, the contrast between twilight and evening bell and after the night is gone. It's like he's contrasting the uncertainty of life with the certainty of death.
Partner, that is a very clever observation. Tennyson emphasizes the passage from life to death through a masterful influence of light and dark, day and night.
It's amazing how just a few words can trigger such strong feelings. Tennyson's use of figurative language gives the poem a lot of depth. So now, can you tell me about Alfred Tennyson himself?
Okay, partner. So, Alfred Tennyson was born on August 6, 1809 and died on October 6, 1892. He was an English poet. He was the poet laureate during much of Queen Victoria's reign. In 1829, Tennyson was awarded the Chancellor's Gold Medal at Cambridge for one of his first pieces, Timbuktu.
Wow, that's amazing!
Wait, there's more! He published his first solo collection of poems, chiefly lyrical, in 1830, Claribel and Mariana, which remain some of Tennyson's most celebrated poems. were included in this volume. Although described by some critics as overly sentimental, his verse soon proved popular and brought Tennyson to the attention of well-known writers of the day, including Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Tennyson's early poetry, with its medievalism and powerful visual imagery, was a major influence on the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood.
Wow, he is really amazing, partner. He achieved so many things even when he was young. So now, partner, can you tell more about the poem that really interests you?
Okay, so Crossing the Bar is an 1889 poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson. It is considered that Tennyson wrote it elegy. The narrator uses an extended metaphor to compare death with crossing the sandbar between the river of life, with its outgoing flood, and the ocean that lies beyond death, the boundless deep, to which we return. So I guess that's it, my partner, and my dear listeners. I'm done with my poem.
Well, I really enjoyed your poem, partner. I hope people will read this poem and hope that those who read this will get a moral lesson from this.
So that's it, my dear listeners. I hope you enjoy my poem titled Crossing the Bar by Alfred Tennyson.
Thank you, my dear listeners, for listening to our podcast. Stay tuned for more podcasts, stories, and poems.
And again, we are here to read, we talk, we analyze, and we discuss. And again, we are Pod Talk.
Pod Talk.